Good evening and welcome to the League of Women Voters of Ames and Story County Candidate Forum for Iowa Senate races. For those of you who might not be familiar, the League is a nonpartisan political organization dedicated to encouraging citizens to be informed participants in their government on the local, state, and national levels. This is Tuesday, October 8th, and tonight we will meet candidates for the Iowa Senate. And this forum is being recorded and will be played on the League of Women Voters of Ames and Story County Facebook page and KHOI FM 89 at a later date. I'm Barb Peterson, member of the League and chair of Voter Services, and I will moderate tonight's forum. So let's begin. All declared candidates for these offices have been invited to this forum, and tonight we have with us Margaret Liston, candidate for District 24, and Cindy Opidel Passion, candidate for District 28, and Mike Wolf, also candidate for 26. Got that wrong on there. The forum this evening will be divided into three sections. First will be the candidates' opening statements. Secondly, questions from you, the audience. And finally, closing statements from the candidates as time allows. Audience members, if you have a question to ask the candidates, please raise your hand and a runner will bring you a card. I will read the questions to the candidates from the podium. Candidates will be given 90 seconds to give their response to audience questions. If there are questions yet to be asked as 8 o'clock hour approaches, audience questions will take priority over closing remarks. And in the tradition of the League of Women Voters, we want every candidate to have an equal say. So candidates, please try to limit your opening remarks to 2 minutes each. Our timekeeper, John Klaus, will hold up a card when you have 30 seconds left in the time allotted. So we will start tonight with our introductory remarks from Ms. Liston.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for hosting this tonight. Thank you all for being here tonight. I'm honored to be here as a candidate of Iowa State
Would you
District.
talk into your mic?
Sorry. I think I do that every time. Okay, so I'm honored to be here as a candidate for Iowa Senate District 24. For the past 21 years, I have had the privilege of serving as a councilwoman for the city of Ogden. My journey has been deeply rooted in our community's values and needs. Growing up in a small town, I learned the importance of hard work, collaboration, and the strength of community bonds. These values have guided me throughout my career as a surgical technician, an operating room nurse, and a public servant. I want a better Iowa that prioritizes the health and safety of our citizens, support our family-scaled farms, ensure clean water, and adopts sustainable soil conservation, including access to mental health services, fully funding public schools, lowering college tuition costs, and protecting women's reproductive care are all equally of importance to me. My commitment is to you and the people of Iowa. Together we can change the course of our state. We can build a future that reflects our shared values and aspirations for all Iowans.
Thank you. Ms. Opidel Passion?
Thank you very much for having me tonight. Thanks everybody for showing up. This is what makes democracy works, right? We show up. Unfortunately, my opponent didn't show up, but you know, I am running for the Iowa Senate.
Can you move it a little bit closer to you?
It's not
Right, turn it towards you.
Okay.
Is that better?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
You got it.
I am running for the Iowa Senate for two main reasons. One is public schools. We need to fully fund our public schools. We need to fully fund our area education association. The AEAs were started in the 1970s in Iowa to bridge the gap between urban and rural schools. And we're sliding right back down into that hole. Our kids in rural schools are not getting the same services that they get in the urban schools. Whether they have a handicap or, I mean, my husband always talks about how great AEA is. They check kids' hearing when they start school. You know, who's going to do that in these little rural areas? So public schools, AEAs, and get rid of these private school vouchers. Yeah. The other reason I'm running is I want Iowa to have access to safe and legal abortion. We are dead last in this state for the number of OBGYNs per capita. We're not going to be able to draw more with this kind of law on the books, so that's why I'm running. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wolf?
Thank you for thank you very much for having me here. My name is Mike Wolf. I'm running for Senate District 26. That's Marshall County and Story County, with the exception of some of the more populated areas. For the most part, Story County in my district is where the people aren't. But that's okay, because I live out on my own little quiet farm with my family and a few livestock here and there. And that was enough for me. I was very happy with our quiet little life. I had absolutely no intention of ever running for office. But I felt that the casual disdain that the Republican administration was showing to the opinions of the average Iowan was too much to bear. That Iowans made their wishes known time and time again when it came to the public school gutting that we've done. That people don't want their public money to go to private schools, overwhelmingly in this state. People don't want the AEAs to be taken apart and turned into some sort of fee-for-service process. People don't want eminent domain to make some other man rich at the expense of Iowans' property rights. None of the people don't want abortion to be banned at 6 weeks. That's overwhelmingly opposed in this state. But when Iowans make their voices heard to the Republican administration and to the incumbents that can't be bothered to show up to these kinds of debates, we should take note that our opinions don't matter to them. And it's time to do something different for the state of Iowa. It's time to let people know that they serve us. Thank you.
And thank you, candidates. And members of the audience, if you have a question, please raise your hand and we will bring a card around to you to write your question, and I will read it from the podium here. So first question, candidates. And you will have 90 seconds to give your response, and we'll start with Ms. Liston. What, if any, legislative actions would you support to address climate change?
I would like to see us work on soil conservation. I think there's an opportunity there, not only, well, to have restorative of our topsoil, restoration of that. And I think going with cover crops, grassways, where the county tiles come out, getting grasses and things in front of that to help keep the nitrates and phosphorus that comes off the crops. I think that would help clean up our water quite a little bit, because our water is not good across the state. We have, many lakes that are, recreation is you can't swim in them. So, yeah, I'd like to see the farmers, help the farmers do more with cover crops.
Thank you. Ms. Alvarado-Passion?
Climate change is top of mind with the storms in Florida, and I think in Iowa, We can do a couple of things. We can provide incentives for farmers to do crop rotation, cover crops, buffer strips. We can provide incentives to preserve more in the way of wetlands. And I think we've got to have a moratorium on hog confinements. We've got to do that. It's, you know, the number, I know in Hamilton County we have 7,000 hogs per person. You know, where does that waste go, and how do we, yeah, we need a cap.
Mr. Wolf?
I think there's a number of areas that we can improve public-private partnerships as far as conservation practices, in discovering and implementing best practices on farm for waste management from livestock and turning that into a cleaner version of, rather than just spread it on the fields. But there is a pretty good sized plant in Story County that works towards improving Iowa's biofuels beyond just corn ethanol, and making that biofuel process into something that helps farmers capture the waste they have and turn that into fertilizer that stays on the farm. There would be space to help improve that practice throughout the state to help limit the impact that the nitrogen fertilizer monopoly has on farmers, and also help limit the impact that that runoff would have on our water quality and improve farmers' bottom lines.
Okay, thank you. And now Ms. Alberto Passion will be the first person for this question. What can state government do to increase the supply of affordable housing?
I think we have to give tools to communities to do what's best for their community, whether it's tiny houses or housing that's specifically for seniors, low-income seniors, and probably this would be through some sort of grant or loan, low-interest loan to the community.
Okay. Mr. Wolf?
I feel that the state should work in conjunction with local authorities through grants and forgivable loans, things like that, to just make sure that the local people in each jurisdiction are empowered to make decisions for their own communities, rather than trying to pursue a one-size-fits-all strategy for the state about how we should supply or improve housing. But still couple that with perhaps some challenges to those different areas about zoning impediments to improving housing access. If the state can show that this area's house zoning is limiting the amount that probably should be built in this area, to challenge those localities to justify the zoning ordinances beyond that's how it is right now. You know, just give some justification for why we feel like the restrictive housing zoning should be held in place. But also just, again, work with various different localities through grants and forgivable loans to allow those communities to serve their own citizens.
Okay. Ms. Liston?
Yes, I'm going to use our community for an example. I live in Ogden, and we have many seniors that when they retire and then they get to a point where they are going to have to go to a nursing home or assisted living, we don't have enough housing for that. If we had duplexes, people would be knocking at the door to get in. There is not enough housing. Also with rent. Rent is outrageously high, and I think that comes from people from out of state coming in and buying up homes and then renting them out. I know that in our community, $1,000 a month for rent that's just undoable. I mean, people can't afford that. I would like to see the state make grants or to help smaller rural towns be able to build more low-income housing. The problem with that, with two different communities, we were going to have a low-income housing come and build, and we had so much pushback, and another community in Greene County had the same thing. So you're trying to help your citizens to keep them in your community, but then you have the pushback of, we don't want those kind in our community. Well, that's just small thinking in my book. I mean, you may be that person that might need that housing at some point in your life. So,
Thank you. And Mr. Wolf, we'll start with you on the next question. What should the Iowa legislature do to promote gun safety?
As a gun owner, I do think that Iowa is a pretty welcoming place to own a gun right now. There aren't a lot of rules and restrictions in front of you if you wanted to go buy it. I do think that we should take a note from some of the recent school shootings where the parents of children who have done these horrific acts, the parents have also been held accountable. As that might be something that we could address at a state to help make this top of mind for people like me who have guns and kids in their house, to make sure that that is something that kids don't have access to. And if that's all it takes, then that would be good. But one of the things that we definitely need to do as a state and as a country is actually take time and energy to address means and causes for how we're ending up with school shootings, and make sure that we're making fact-based decisions based on evidence rather than feeling about, appreciating the Second Amendment right and not wanting to examine how that could cause harm if we don't regulate it.
Ms. Liston?
we need more mental health services. We need mental health services in our schools to help the kids and the teachers. My husband and I own guns as well. We don't hunt, but we do target shoot. I think common sense laws would be good. I don't think anybody is really saying, I want to take away your guns. We just don't need assault rifles, the access to them so easy. To me, that is for the military. I don't know why you would want to take one of those hunting, but yeah, I just think we could do better, make more common sense laws and bring more mental health services into the schools and into our communities. We have 84,000, I believe, people that need mental health services, and we're lucky if 35,000 get treatment throughout the year. So we still have a long ways to go.
Ms. Abedul-Pasha?
I would be in favor of some safe storage rules, laws, and red flag laws to point out folks that had a history of domestic violence, not allowing those folks to have access to weapons.
Okay. And let's see, we started with Mr. Wolf, now Ms. Liston will be the next question. Will you support Senator Eisenhardt's bills that assure that the state that feeds the world will feed its own children? Would you like me to repeat that?
No, I'm just going to say I'm not familiar with that.
Okay.
If you're talking about our governor turning down $29 million to feed our children during the summer, I think that's wrong. You know, that is our federal tax dollars that we have paid in that's not coming back into the state. I mean, I didn't get a refund, did you?
And I will say that the second part of this question is, what do you think of the governor's refusal of the $29 million to feed the
Okay. So I didn't know about the first part.
Very good.
Okay. Yes, it's just shameful. It's wrong. It's hurting our children. I don't understand it. We fed the kids during COVID, but we can't do it at other times. There's many other states, Minnesota. They have free breakfast and lunch, so we can do it. If we want to.
Ms. Abado-Passion?
I'm not familiar with Senator Eisenhardt's bill, but yeah, definitely we need to expand food services to folks that are struggling, especially children. And the governor had proposed some sort of a box of food that would be selected by, I don't know who, but folks need access to groceries of their own choosing to meet the dietary needs of their family. So just give them the debit card and let them buy what's best for their kids.
Mr. Wolf?
I support reducing regulation on Iowans by allowing them to make their own decisions about how they feed their families and offering them cash or EBT support when they need that extra help. I think that when we hear the same thing from the governor, oh, we need to reduce regulations for the state, it's killing our business, and then we turn around and try and restrict whether or not Iowans that need food assistance can buy fresh meat. That didn't pass this last legislation, but it was certainly proposed. In that same climate of trusting regulation or businesses to do the right thing without regulations, why wouldn't we offer that same grace to Iowans? We do have a duty to feed our children. That is the future of Iowa. And through no fault of their own, they may end up with, in a situation where their family can't provide them with enough food. If we expect to continue as a state, then we should nurture our most precious resource and feed those children so they can grow up healthy, strong, and productive, and happy. And there's nothing like hunger to make a kid unhappy. And if we're going to do that to kids on purpose, what kind of state are we going to have?
Okay. And Ms. Abado-Passion for the next question. What do you feel should be done to ensure quality access to care for special needs infants and children now that the AEAs have been restructured?
I was reading a little bit about some federal funding that's available to set up child care centers, and the governor apparently did not take advantage of this program. We could certainly look at child care centers for kids with special needs. I'm sure that's a huge need in Iowa.
And Mr. Wolf?
The easy answer is put the AEAs back.
Yeah.
That was a very poorly planned bill that was based on shoddy research done by an out-of-state firm that was given marching orders that would come up with an answer without even really addressing if there was a problem. It was a foolish plan. It was a railroad that Iowans were overwhelmingly against. So the way to assure that children with special needs are served by the AEAs is to put the AEAs back together and serve them the way it was intended, the way it worked for 50 years. If the governor wanted to make changes in the program that she is responsible for administering as part of the education department, as part of the administration, she could have done so over the previous 8 years rather than just cutting it apart completely and heading it down another fee-for-service debacle.
Ms. Liston?
Well, I agree that we need more daycares. I did read that our governor had a daycare project, I believe in Omaha. And I haven't heard anything how that project resulted at all. Dismantling the AEA has really hurt not only the children, but it's also hurt the teachers. AEA also helped with curriculum to teach the special children, and it also helped the teachers with education. So it's hurting not just the special needs kids, it's also hurting our teachers. Yes, we need to restore AEA. I think that's the best solution.
Okay, Mr. Wolf? How will you protect the right to access safe and legal abortion in Iowa?
Again, it's a repeal the ban. The Iowans didn't want it. Iowans didn't ask for it. The legislature and the governor passed it anyway. And then the governor's handpicked justices upheld the ban. Even though previous courts had said that Iowans enjoyed constitutional protections for that right. So the way to ensure that access is safe and affordable and available is to repeal the 6-week ban. Just get rid of the law entirely and go back to how we were before.
Okay. And Ms. Liston?
I would like to see it become a constitutional amendment, but that's difficult in Iowa. That would have to be introduced by the legislature. Residents of the state cannot just go out and get signatures on a petition. So it's important that we get the House and the Senate either has a balance or we have both. Also, politicians are never more qualified than the patient and the doctor to make their health care decisions. They don't need a chair in the office. Being an operating room nurse, I have witnessed or been part of different cases that I still think about today. When I think about a woman coming into the ER with a, oh my gosh, well, I can't think of the tubal, ectopic, thank you. It's an emergency, and you cannot just let them lay there or send them back out the door. It's wrong. It's just wrong. We need to repeal it.
Ms. Abido-Passion?
Something that you all talked about, Beth, last week at the House forum was a constitutional amendment to guarantee access to in vitro fertilization, contraception, and safe and legal birth control or abortion. So I would be in favor of that. I think it's like a 2-year process. Is that right? 4-year process. So, it's not going to happen this year, but I think that's the way to guarantee this right.
Okay, thank you. And now it will be Ms. Liston for the next question. How can the Iowa legislature promote affordable child care for all Iowans?
Boy. Well, raise wages would be helpful. Affordable child care.
Okay.
I'm just blank, sorry.
Okay. And Ms. Abido-Passion?
Childcare is very low pay, and I think Margaret's right. I think raising the minimum wage would help with recruiting, retaining staff at child care centers. We need more, so there's been incentives to companies to build on-site childcare. I think that's a great idea, but the solutions need to be a little different in rural Iowa. So I would again work with local communities to get child care centers in their communities. Let them handle it.
Mr. Wolf?
I've spoken to quite a few early educators during the course of my campaign. Some of them special education teachers for kindergarten or pre-K. And those people that I've spoken to are very concerned about the educational ability, the readiness for education of children coming into their classrooms. That there are some kids who are just nonverbal at 5. Some kids who aren't potty trained at 5. And just every one of those tragedies is something that we as a state will have to overcome. And we're starting so late in their lives. It will be so hard and expensive for us as a society to re-educate this child. One of the things that we could do instead of abandoning children who just need more help, abandoning families who just need more help, is we could invest in our future. If we were to offer additional pre-K or preschool or early care for children as part of our state, it would prevent children from showing up to school in such an unprepared state. It would help those kids who are obviously growing up in an environment where their family doesn't have enough resources to grow up to be, the next valedictorian in their high school rather than somebody who barely makes it out of 8th grade. We have a chance to help these kids through funding early education at a state level, and it would probably end up opening up those moms to increased employment opportunities. And increased employment opportunities is more tax revenue for the state. So while this program may have some costs up front, as we improve the educational outcomes of children and we improve the employment opportunities for young families, this is a win-win for the state. This will end up getting more revenue into our coffers rather than less.
Okay, thank you. And we will start with Ms. Abadal-Passion for the next question. Do you support vouchers? And if you do or don't, how do you propose that Iowa pays for the $1 billion shortfall coming up?
We got to get rid of the vouchers. No, Arizona is having huge budgetary problems because of their private school vouchers. So, yeah, and having it managed by an out-of-state company with no oversight here in the state is a recipe for budget disaster. So get rid of them.
Mr. Wolf?
I'm kind of repeating myself a little bit today. Again, this is a policy that Iowans did not want, did not ask for, and will damage the finances of our state. We didn't need the private school voucher program to be put in place, and now that it has become quite clear just how harmful for our finances as a state it will be, we should abandon this debacle, get rid of the voucher programs, and go back to funding public education with public dollars. We owe that to our kids to give them the best schooling possible. The Reynolds administration has underfunded schools by basically the whole surplus that our budget is currently holding. If you don't pay your mortgage and your bank account looks really big, that's not actually a surplus in your bank account. We didn't pay for our schools, we didn't pay for our kids' education And now there's this big wad of cash and just waiting out there as sort of an indictment to the Republican administration for failing to invest in our future. And rather than put that money where it belongs in our public schools, we're siphoning it out of rural Iowa's education and giving it to the wealthier suburbs where those private education opportunities actually exist. It's wrong. The easy way to fix the budget shortfall is to stop making it.
Okay. Ms. Liston?
Well, our governor touts that this is school choice, but it's not really school choice because we have 42 counties that have no private schools, and we have 24 counties that have one private school. So how is that choice? It's not. Our public schools are held accountable for the dollars they get. Private schools do not have to account for any of it. We have to rescind the vouchers. I feel that we will end up like Arizona. They are in their third year, and they are having to do budget cuts to state programs, road infrastructure, and that's 3 years, and we are in year 2, we're in year 2, and next year, the next school year, there's no restrictions, there's no income limit on that. So it's just a lot of money that we could use for our public schools.
Okay, and Mr. Wolf, the next question. How would you help stem the tide of people leaving Iowa?
One of the things that I feel like could characterize the last 2 years of legislation, if not the entirety of Kim Reynolds' administration, is mean-spiritedness. They pick various different minorities, either the LGBTQ community to demonize, or the immigrant community with the bill they just passed about papers and trying to enforce local law enforcement to determine if somebody is in the country legally or not at every interaction. We need to stop being mean to our own citizens for political points. I don't know how we could expect young people to hear the words Iowa nice and not think we were kidding at this point. It's become a joke because of the mean-spiritedness of the last several years. And that's one of the things that we can do to fix this state, to return Iowa to the welcoming place that it used to be. Iowa was one of the first states to allow interracial marriage, even before Loving made it legal nationwide. Iowa was one of the first states to allow gay marriage, even before it was legalized by the Supreme Court nationwide. Iowa's used to really rely on the point of what my father-in-law always told me when he was giving me advice. Now, I don't want to tell you what to do. And then he'd give me really good advice that I would be foolish to not take. But it always came up with, no, I don't want to tell you what to do. And here we are in a state that says, you can't be an immigrant and feel welcome. You can't be in the LGBT community and feel welcome. That you can't get an abortion if you think that's the right thing for you and your family, regardless of what your doctor says. We're telling Iowans what to do. I've never known a young person to think that that was the good thing for them. And how are we going to have a state that keeps those young people when here we are telling them how to live their lives? We need to fix that.
Okay. And Ms. Liston?
Well, we need to stop forcing laws onto Iowans. The abortion ban will keep people away. our education system has fallen from 3rd down to 24th. We're the 5th worst state for personal income growth. We're the 7th, with our abortion ban, our OBGYN, we're the worst state of active OBGYN per capita. So all these laws are driving, to me, the young people out. It's not welcoming them in. Our cancer rates, we're the 2nd highest in the nation, and we still have cancer cases rising all the time. We need to stop having these poor laws forced on the people of Iowa.
And Ms. Alberto Passion?
We've got to dial back these culture wars. It's not a welcoming state like we've been in the past. I'm sorry that Senator Green is not here, because he said that the other day in the Fort Dodge Messenger that we had a net gain of people coming to Iowa. And I wanted to ask him where he got his numbers. But just dial back some of these culture wars and get back to our roots as a state that values education and diversity, kindness.
Okay. And Ms. Liston, next question. What specific policies do you support to promote economic development and job creation in rural and urban areas of Iowa?
Well, pardon, rural and urban. Yes.
Well, everything.
We do have shortages of nurses. I'm just going to go down the path with our nursing homes are they're in poor shape. I mean, they don't have enough staff to care for the senior citizens in there. I would like to see the state work with young moms to get them into a program. I'll use nursing for an example. Bring them in, give them a stipend, to live. Give them gas money or transportation to school. Give them a food allowance. Then, after they graduate, have a contract with them so that they would contract for the state. They could work in mental hospitals, even though we don't have too many of those, nursing homes, county hospitals, rotate them so they're not, having to fulfill their contract. If they decide not to fulfill it, then there would be a percentage that they would have to pay back. I think there's things like our trades with, carpentry and plumbing and electrical, the apprenticeships. Those are the ways to get these people into those programs. When I say people, I think of on state aid. Women can do these trades as well as men. I think there's an opportunity to get people, off the couch and out there with helping them with a career.
And Ms. Alberto Passion?
I would start by raising the minimum wage.
Okay. And Mr. Wolf?
There's a lot of barriers to job growth in rural Iowa right now. One of them, I think we're missing out on a boom in work from home and remote work projects that rural Iowans could perform, same as people are doing in some of the suburbs, because the broadband access just isn't there for them to be able to get those jobs done. I am concerned that if we don't fix that shortfall soon, we will have missed the boat on getting those jobs to Iowans while we still have the chance. There's a whole lot of growth in that area right now. My friend Brian Milton lived in Nevada and commuted to Des Moines for years to work for Nationwide. And now he's moved to Webster City because Nationwide sold their building to the city of Des Moines to use for however they choose. So there is currently a chance to capture that growth in rural Iowa by allowing them to work from home and to work remotely if that infrastructure was there. One of the other barriers that rural Iowans face, much more so than urban areas, is childcare. That there's just not enough people in those areas to support childcare centers, so you're left with perhaps 1 or 2 moms that are working from home. This is a place where we've got the childcare access that I spoke about earlier. We should subsidize that. It would help rural Iowans perhaps even more than people in cities.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Abado-Passion, you have the next question. Currently, and I would say this is even before the voucher system was put into place, private school students are not held to the same academic standards as public school. How should this be addressed?
This problem goes back quite a few years, and one of the things that disturbed me the most, I can't remember if this was 2 sessions ago, they exempted private school employees from being mandatory reporters of abuse, and that really bothers me. If we're going to give vouchers to private schools, they need to be held to the same standards as our public schools.
Okay, and Mr. Wolf, I'll read it again. And currently, and I believe this happened before the voucher system, private school students are not held to the same academic standard as public school standards. How should this be addressed?
I think there's 2 things that need to happen with that. The first would be to eliminate the public funding from those private schools. And then the oversight for the state is no longer missing for that funding. One of the other things I think we should do to ensure private schools have a certain level of quality is not necessarily mandating what or how they teach once they are purely privately funded, but requiring a benchmark for those students to be assessed against, and requiring that that benchmark for the school be published. So parents have full transparency about this is how this school performs, so they know how they're spending their own money. And since that is private money, I feel like that's a fair way of making that happen. That parents should be able to choose which school they enroll their private student into and how that school performs with their own money. Just once it's got public dollars in it, it should require oversight as to quality, kind, and type of education that's offered.
Okay, Ms. Liston?
Well, I agree that we need to do away with the vouchers because, or if we cannot, then the private schools need to be held accountable and follow the same standards as our public schools.
Okay. And Mr. Wolf, this will probably be our last question. And, okay, say the best for last here. Do you believe in the separation of church and state?
I do believe that. It is the most basic reading of the U.S. Constitution that that's a requirement. And I feel like keeping those separate in our state is a key way of respecting the citizens of this state. There are so many different churches of the Christian faith in this city alone that, the reason that those different churches exist is because people have different interpretations of their own faith within one city. And there are other faiths that have their own ways of worship here in Ames and across the state. And to pick one of those as the right one that our state will uphold is disrespectful to our communities. People deserve to have their own faith and worship it in their own way and not have it dictated to them by the government.
Okay, Ms. Liston?
Here, here. Well said. Yeah, there should be separation. I don't think I can add anything more to what Mike said.
Okay, Ms. Avido-Passion?
Yes.
Okay, now it's time for closing remarks. And candidates, if you would like to respond further to any question that we asked previously or make any other final remarks, you will have 2 minutes to do so. And so we will start with Ms. Liston.
Okay. As we look towards the future, I want to emphasize the importance of voting. Your vote is your voice, and it's crucial that we all participate in shaping the future of Iowa. I especially want to encourage young people to get out and vote. You are the future of Iowa, and your involvement is vital to the driving the change that we need in this state. Iowa needs a different course, and the time for the change is November 5th. I believe my 21 years as a councilwoman brings insight to local government. As an OR nurse, a nurse that works in the OR must be accountable, responsible, honest, and have integrity. These values have guided me throughout my life and my career. I believe I can bring my experience and values to the state Senate to work for my district and for all Iowans. I care about my community, I care about my district, and I care about Iowa.
Ms. Avido-Passion?
Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. It's really nice to see so many people here. I'm ready to get to work. I'm ready to bring Iowa schools back to #1 in the country. I'm ready to let women make their own medical decisions. I'm ready to start listening to folks in Iowa, real problems, not culture wars. Let's get to work.
Okay, Mr. Wolf?
Thank you all for coming. I really appreciate the chance to speak to you. I've appreciated all the conversations I've had at door knocking as I've met, so many Iowans who are ready for change, who are ready to be heard in their state government, to feel like their opinions matter, and that the people that have been elected to serve them are actually serving the people of Iowa, rather than out-of-state interest groups or some, legislative drafting committee trying to push Iowans into doing social experiments based on out-of-state values. We deserve better from our elected officials. We deserve people who feel like you're worthy of showing up, that we could be here and tell you what we think instead of, leaving empty chairs. You all deserve better than that. I hope you consider that. We've taken so much of our time this year to try and meet Iowans where they are, to try and talk to you about what's important to us and listen to you about what's important to you. And, listening to Iowans has been one of the best things about this whole experience. Maybe one of the hardest, because you have to get in front of people to have that opportunity. So I really do appreciate this opportunity of being able to be in front of you all and the people who hopefully watch this at home, so that you know what I'm about, and you've heard what I have to say, and you have a chance to hear me say to you all, please come tell me what's important to you. I want to listen. I want to do what's best for Iowa. That's why I'm here tonight. That's why I'm running this race. Because I feel like what's best for Iowa isn't what's been happening in our state house right now, but we can do better. Thank you so much.
Thank you for a very informative evening, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to get to know you all a little bit better. Before we conclude, I want to remind everyone to vote on November 5th. If you have already requested an absentee ballot, you have until November 5th at 8 p.m. to deliver the absentee ballot in person to the Administration Building, 900 6th Street in Nevada, between 8 and 5. To register to vote, please go to the Story County Auditor's Office to the Story County Auditor's Office website to download a voter registration form, or you can register to vote on Election Day with a proper ID. Or, to make it much more convenient, we can register you today back at the back table. And you can also fill out an absentee request form. And thank you, candidates, again, for sharing your views and also for your commitment to serve. We appreciate that. And thank you all for actively participating in the election process. This concludes our forum. Good night.